And welcome back, welcome in one and all to the Spin Cycle. Andrew Southwick, R.C. Williams, with you once again. And gotta give you a disclaimer here. I think both of us are in spots where our internet is a little weird. So
Yeah.
if we do glitch a little bit, we apologize. We're doing the best that we can. Again, I'm doing some traveling here over this week and next week, and so we're having to put this together old school style in terms of internet connection and finding all that. So we appreciate you bearing with us.
Andrew, we're
Um,
not we're not Sam Altman
no, oh, that's true. That's
or
true.
Peter T. We're not like tick 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 tick. No, we're not like broken like
No, not quite that. Not quite that broken.
that.
But and we will be back to normal soon. But just give us some time here. We appreciate your patience with us. All right. Now I forgot to share my screen, so that's the first thing that I need to do here on the broadcast. And let's start with, I guess I need to share the audio too. Bring that up here. I just need to make that a little bit bigger for you. Um, President Trump gave a speech last night. We've got some clips from that. And oh man, this thing did it again. I don't understand why it does this. Um, I have a screen that shows me uh, the different ways the shot will appear on screen. And
Mm.
unfortunately, for some reason, it that glitches, and then I don't have all the controls, and I'm not sure why. And it just did it now that we're live. I'm not really sure how to fix it here. So we're just gonna
Uh-oh.
go. We're gonna go forward, and I'm gonna see what happens. So it might not be this episode is just gonna be straight up gorilla. I mean, I don't know, live, and it's
Witness
just weird.
protection.
Yeah,
Just roll it the way that it is.
yeah.
I
Okay.
yeah.
Anyway, President Trump gave a speech last night, largely on shoring up elections, and he yelled at the GOP. We got a little bit of that for you here on the program. There's new polling out. Emerson has some new polling, far beyond the margin of error that should concern the GOP, even if it is off, or even if it is weighted more toward the Democrats. And then, of course, Tucker Carlson. As you know, there are rumors that he and the Marjorie Taylor Greens of the world and Thomas Massey's and Joe Kent, they were all photographed together, actually, and possibly thinking about, talking about, wondering about a new party. There have been rumors that Tucker Carlson was going to run in 2028 anyway. Would it be a Tucker Carlson on the top of the ticket, or would that be a new party and then finding a candidate? Would be hard pressed to find a candidate with more name ID, and that's a big
Mm.
deal if they're going to go after a federal election. Be that as it were, let's start. Let's start with the poll. I think let's start with the poll because that will take us into Tucker Carlson. But we have his 10 point plan, so we'll look at that
Mm.
um, today as well. But let me see, where are my bookmarks here? I gotta make this.
So Andrew, while you're doing that,
Yeah.
Tucker did his announcement live on tuckercarlson.com last night, and I'm sure it was of interest to many people that when you got there and you wanted to watch this thing, it would have cost you $9 a month to sign up. On the flip side, I think someone did figure that out, and they made his entire 90-plus minute run through available on socials and everything like that shortly after. To me, it is interesting. Once again, the Watchman Brief, Spin Cycle, Culture Crossroads are publications all way ahead of the curve, talking about the fact that you get to a point, whether you believe legitimately that there needs to be another option, or you're in the camp where you believe this is some type of psyop by China or Russia or somebody else to try and divide the population of the United States. It is interesting to hear it see and come from someone or someones who actually have the resources to potentially get something like this done. From our show yesterday, you also wonder if this is a head fake to get people leaning in, and then maybe it's not a national seat in 2028, but it's something more winnable that this group comes together to try to capture to kind of make their statement.
Mm-hmm.
Hard to tell, but I think it was interesting that Tucker Carlson, whether you like him or dislike him, took 90 minutes to actually walk people through. And again, whether you like or dislike him, what I think is interesting here that people need to figure out, and I think this ties into the polling a little bit, Andrew, is that Tucker will speak and act in a way that the average person can follow, right? He's going to say the simple things that people say, that makes total sense to me. Yeah, why aren't we doing that? I think this is some of the underestimation that we talk about with the GOP that they're legitimately doing. Like they're missing the bus. We've talked about this in prior shows. Here in Florida, a lot of people missed the James Fishback effect. Now, whether he wins or loses, I don't know that he makes it out of the primary. That said, his ability to galvanize large blocks of young people is something that the traditional GOP rhino class, or here in the state of Florida, the RPOF, completely whiffed on. They've completely underestimated it. They think these people are just going to show up. What they don't realize is that they're going to feel the impact of that move for many election cycles to come. And you're going to see a fracturing here, much like you're seeing at the national level.
And I almost called you Trent. Wrong show. RC. Uh, yeah, I
Love you, Trent.
yeah. Um, I'm all discombobulated this morning. I'll tell you what. I would say it's not even just Gen Z, but it's also creeping up into Gen X as well. And I'll tell you why.
Mhm.
Because, and this is something that I made an executive decision for our Sunday show. I do want to dig into this story on the Sunday show on Culture Crossroads. So we shall. But there was a post by uh, a writer formerly worked with the Babylon Bee, and talking about how he can feed his family of 8 a burrito meal for $20 total. And then he said he's thinking we don't have an affordability problem, but we have an I can't cook problem. Now, the problem with that is that it assumes a whole lot about everybody. But also, I call BS on that because unless you're having like about a teaspoon of hamburger and the world's smallest tortilla, I doubt it's coming in at under $20. But nonetheless, that I, the GOP is insulting its own base for calling out the issues that have not been dealt with, or not, or seemingly not even being addressed by their elected representatives. And so that looking for an alternative is now moving up into a part of the voting base that has been very, very solid, a part that's been very hard and very reticent to come away because they know, gosh, one, if I don't vote, obviously that hands an election to Democrats and at this point
Mhm.
communists. Two, I don't want to risk voting for a communist and living under communism, then having to clean that mess up too. We have enough of a mess right now. But who else do I vote for? Tucker Carlson, I think, has some problematic views on a few things, particularly when it comes to foreign policy and Israel and so on. But at the same time, um, you know, again, people are going to look around and say, "Well, who else is there that's even close to my worldview that would even represent me closely?" So, and compounding that, here's your problem here. Here's the new poll from Interactive Polls, Emerson Polls. You can see Emerson there, Dems plus 11. This is the generic ballot among likely voters, and it is the last 3 weeks. And you've got Dems. The lowest one is Qantas, Dems plus 6. The average is Dems plus 8.7. Just people voting D over R in the midterms. That is beyond the margin of error and even beyond a margin of waiting to a degree uh, with it, if it is in fact a Democrat weighted poll or something to that effect. The Republicans really could have an easy midterm if they had just focused on and done the things that we sent them to Washington to do. The Marxists and communists running on the Democrat side wouldn't have a chance because the GOP could energize their own base if they did what they said they were going to do. We even with the thing, even with Iran, as we were talking about the other day, you can do Operation Midnight Hammer. Okay, that's fine. We got that done. Then we talk about the new one, and it's 2 weeks, and then it's 4 weeks, and then it's 8 weeks, and now it's going on and on and on. And we win every third Thursday, and we lose every second Monday, and we have and Meanwhile, we then the voters are being told, shut up and eat our beans and rice and like it. Shut up and eat ramen like we did when we were in college. We're being told, go get a job. Many of us have more than one job, by the way. So not only do we get backstabbed by our representatives on the right side of the aisle, but then we get insulted and accused of being lazy bums who don't know how to balance our checkbooks. I'm sorry, that is not a winning message going into the midterms. And if you want to see that Dem plus 8.7 rise to Dem plus 15, please, by all means, keep up this messaging. And it's not just a few talking heads. You've had guys like Mark Levin and Mark Thiessen and big Republican thinking names way into that shaming of the GOP base that says, hey, you're ignoring the economy here. It's not good. We are struggling, and we'd like you to pay attention to that. And specifically, we'd like you to stop all the spending that is causing the inflation or that is compounding the inflation. And we'd like you to get an objective in Iran. Let us know what that is, and then meet that, accomplish it, and get out of there. We would like you to hold people accountable. I realize they hold Tony Fauci in contempt today. Fantastic. But instead of making deals with them, we would like some of these people held accountable. Is there any way you can do any of that? Well, they're running out of time here because the midterms are going to change the complexion of the House and the Senate. But they had 2 years to do it. They didn't do it. They had 2 years prior. They didn't do it. And now they seem to be actively doing other things. And then at the same time telling us, again, sit down, shut up, eat beans and rice, eat ramen. That's all you need. That's the. And then Trump is out there saying that Shell and Exxon are making too much money. That's what Democrats say. What has happened?
Oh my goodness. I just, Andrew, there was so much truth firing off there. I just had to chuckle to myself. I'm like, wow. Think about this realistically, right? And you know me, I'm a boxing fan, so I use the boxing analogies. Apollo Creed in Rocky 2 said that Rocky was going down in the second round. Now, one of two things happened here. We know what happened in the movie, but realistically, if you're in the ring with a guy who is undermatched and you're going to knock him out in the second round, you're probably a good bet. You should probably knock him out in the second round. And I think in large part, this goes back to the same arrogance that we saw in Apollo's character. Is that he's like, I got this done. I got it done. I'm a little more serious than last time, but I'm still going to knock this bum out. It feels to me like the GOP and many around him just have this level of arrogance that goes back, Andrew, to when the GOP and the RNC changed the party position on abortion in the summer of 2024. And the very godly lady that was at the door knocking saying, why did you guys do this? You can't do this. That's not who we are. And the guy looked at her and said, well, where are you going to go? You know, I think we're at that moment. It's very reminiscent of that. And instead of people just cowering and saying, yeah, what am I going to do? Or like you said earlier, out of fear, you know, of electing a communist or not doing something, people kind of get to the point where they're like, look, my vote doesn't matter anyway. So now the beatdown happens, right? People are so beaten down that they're just like, you know what? It really doesn't matter anyway. All of this is fixed. Look at what the people who are supposed to be on my side are doing to me. I'm just not going to engage, right? So it's not that I'm going to vote for a Democrat or a communist. I'm just not going to vote at all. I'm done because the system is rigged. These people don't care. Nothing's going to happen. I just need to worry about me. You get to that point, and I think in large part that the GOP and operatives have completely underestimated this. And now the talk is something that I have long talked about. I think probably since the beginning when we started doing Culture Crossroads on the Beck Network like 3 years ago. I have said, man, where's Ross Perot? How right was Ross Perot all those years ago? And now what do you hear coming from people? Oh boy, we're having a Ross Perot level split in the Republican Party. It's like wherever you go, there you are. Hate to be an I told you so, but we did kind of tell you so. And isn't it interesting? We're back to that place where anyone who even speaks in the realm of common sense, whether or not they're good or bad for us or for the future of America, get traction. It's an interesting time.
And along comes then Tucker Carlson and these rumors of a third party, and he put out a 10-point plan And we can just go through them now. If you're like me and you voted capital R, you voted red for 30 years, and now you're seeing your own party tell you, insult you, and certainly act like they don't even need your vote. I think that's a problem. They're acting like they don't even need my vote, and you know what? Maybe they
Mhm.
don't. Maybe they don't. Maybe I and others like me, others like you, are no longer the constituents that they care about. You remember, even President Trump even said, when he went after pro-life voters and accused them of not showing up in the 22 midterms, and that's why the red wave didn't happen. He's been
Yeah.
on record saying that we don't really need their votes anyway. It's just a small percentage of the Republican vote. We don't need their vote anyway. Maybe they don't need mine now either. And so he's going to get his wish granted. And then Tucker Carlson's going to come along and put out a 10-point plan that says this: number one, fair. The same rules should apply to presidents, federal agents, and elites, such as Jeffrey Epstein, whose impunity Carlson casts as emblematic of the Epstein class, enriching himself. Then he says, sovereign. Of course, this is Carlson's claim that Israel pushed the U.S. into the Iran war. I'm not sure. I'm not sure I buy all of that kind of. We're Netanyahu's puppet. I don't think so. Um, but nonetheless, we are certainly mired over there. Productive, we should rebuild farming, manufacturing, and craftsmanship while rejecting an economy dominated by finance, real estate speculation, surveillance system, and weapons. That's going to play right now.
Hmm.
Beautiful. Carlson did say that urban planners have deliberately uglified American cities. Okay, I mean, you know, great. Healthy, Carlson embraced RFK Jr.'s food agenda. This is where I split with a lot of this stuff. I realize the whole Maha thing is good, and I've got friends in Maha. I have friends who are actually very high up in the Maha
Hmm.
movement, but I just don't think government needs to tell us what to do at all. I don't think government needs to, other than maybe keep poisons out of the food supply line, out of the food processing line. That would be nice, but they don't need to be encouraging anybody. They don't need to take the role of the parents, is what I'm trying to say. But
Right.
anyway, healthy. That's going to play because you do have a sizable um, percent of the coalition that elected Trump in 24. That's their big issue. So then honest government officials should be punished for lying to citizens. Good luck. Everybody's going to jail in that case. Um, and classified records, including JFK and 9/11, should be opened. I will believe that when I see it. I don't care who says it. Optimistic, Carlson believes that having children is a biological imperative and the foundation of long-term thinking, while blaming aging and childless elites for policies that disregard future generations. Yeah, the attack on the family, the attack on children, the perception that children are a burden, that they hold you back, that they keep you from being authentically you, particularly in the feminist movement. Yeah, that has certainly created policies that are disregarding the future. Wise schools should teach how the world actually works, unchanging facts about human nature. Okay, if we're gonna have public school, let's get the whole 1619 nonsense out of here, and let's just talk about this happened, and you can draw your own conclusion as to whether you think that was good or bad. Decent. We should apologize and pay restitution for killing non-combatants. Reverse Trump's Department of War rebrand and stop funding allies that commit what Carlson calls genocide, citing Israel. Again, I part with him here. United. Halt immigration efforts until the effects of AI become clearer. Ending benefits for undocumented immigrants and making English the sole language of federal and documents and ballots. Some of that I can buy. Some of it I'd like to see more connections. So again, I'm not here promoting Tucker Carlson, but he is definitely putting out what he sees as his vision of what's important for the federal government and things that he believes would get the federal government back to um, what it needs to be. I think the shrinking the size and scope of federal government by, yeah, reducing entitlement spending. If we're going to be okay with paying a little more short term pain for long term gain, I think the entitlement reduction in spending is the conversation we need to have, not paying more in oil and paying more in groceries because we're blowing up the spending wildly all around the world and on pet projects and to the donor class.
Andrew, this actually goes back to what we talked about in the story prior when we were talking about the GOP and kind of being out of touch. Now, again, how much of this you agree or disagree with, because I'm in your camp. Some of this, it's like, okay, kind of makes sense. Other stuff is like, you're crazy, dude. That's not going to happen,
Yeah.
nor should it. Um, think about the climate, though. People who are disenfranchised and frustrated and who have been trusting the plan believe that it is 7,600, 442,000, 100 million for D level chess are so disenfranchised, frustrated, beaten down, and tired. Put yourself in their shoes for just 1 minute if you can. And I'm speaking to you, the GOP elites, who are masters of the grifterverse. And if you're making 50 grand a month, I guess life is pretty good. You don't have to think about it. That said, take a moment. Put yourself in the common person's shoes. Frustrated, beaten down, tired, broke, scraping, scrounging, scrapping, 2, 3, 4 jobs if they can get them. And then think about that list and think about how that was presented. And then think about a guy like Tucker Carlson presenting it. It sure does start to sound attractive, doesn't it? It's like you've let populism or an offshoot of it spread in such a way, and you're so arrogant to think that, well, people will just eat their ramen and take it because, America.
Mm-hmm.
You've now put yourself in a place where this sounds super attractive. And Andrew, this is a danger, right? Because anybody can take those 10 points and run on them at any level. And here's the thing, they'll start winning. And what'll happen is they could be a libertarian that leans liberal. They could be an offshoot party. They could be a complete and total nut job. But people will gloss over that because they so love the idea of those 10 things
Mm-hmm.
and them getting done. This is
Yeah.
how you end up in a place where wild cards just end up going.
Yeah. And the it again, it sounds like you're addressing two people, and you actually want their vote, and
Mm-hmm.
or you are trying to make an effort to care about the things that they care about. And disenfranchised voters, all of us now, waking up to the uniparty, waking up to the grift, waking up to the controlled opposition GOP and the communist takeover of the Democrats, the globalist takeover, technocratic takeover of the Republican Party. We're seeing this. Who's going to represent us? Yeah, I mean, now's the time to start doing that. And you'll probably say, well, if I agree with 6 out of 10, that's 60%. I'll go with that. Because I agree with less and less that my own party is doing right now, and I've been loyal to them forever, and they're clearly not being loyal to me. Many conservative voters, that's where they are. And we of course we spoke even 2 years ago when the GOP rewrote their platform, as you talked about just a few minutes ago, and we said, look, we are politically homeless now. It wasn't a big tent that had room for all of our ideas. They
Right.
moved the tent left. They moved it. They and in so doing, those of us over here are not we're not in a tent. Like, we might vote Republican sometimes, but who's really representing our values and our areas? And so that's an issue. Um, t- President Trump last night gave another address. It's so weird. It's a little bit schizophrenic, but he talked about the SAVE Act. I've got a clip of this. Let me bring this up. Hold on, don't
Hmm.
play here. He talked about the SAVE Act, and even President Trump now is out um, hitting the Republicans hard. Listen to this. This is President Trump going after Republicans for not passing the SAVE Act yet.
If you had fair and strong elections, they would lose 25% of their base. They would never be elected again. And I'm trying to explain that to Republicans, but some of them don't quite understand it. They don't understand it because they're good people. They're good people. They don't know how crooked these people are. I've dealt with a lot of crooked people in my life. They don't know how bad these people are. We got to get the Republicans to be tougher, especially in the Senate, especially in our Senate. Got to get the senators in there. They got to be tough. But they voted in favor of the transgender mutilization of your children. And they voted in favor of men and women's sports. Can you imagine?
I don't know what world we live in right now. I mean, that was a campaign message that the Democrats should be giving, running against Republicans. But Trump is doing that, I guess, trying to bully the GOP to vote for the SAVE Act. I mean, he's right. Yeah, the Republicans did vote for all those things and let them pass through, or didn't stop them is another way of putting that. Which also Trump's used that same tactic as well. That's how Elizabeth Warren's Housing Act passed. He just didn't sign it and let the time lapse, and of course then it becomes law, and he can then say, well, I never signed the bill, and but it can still be law and all this other stuff. But I mean, we live in an upside down world, and I do wonder. I've mentioned that my hesitation on the SAVE Act is the Real ID enforcement mechanism. What do you know, or what have you heard about why there is hesitance in passing the SAVE Act? Is it because Republicans are in on voter grift and stuff, and they don't want to stop that gravy train, or is there something else about it that has hung this thing up? You would think that something like that, in this climate right now, with President Trump as the head of the Republican Party, that would sail through. That would sail through.
Yeah.
But there's holdouts, and last I checked, Thomas Massey and Marjorie Taylor Greene are gone, or well, I mean, Massey's still there, but they're not of consequence anymore in terms of getting in the way of the Trump agenda, because nobody's going to pay attention to him. Marjorie Taylor Greene's out, and Thomas Massey's on his last month. So, what is wrong with the SAVE Act that the GOP haven't passed it yet, and they keep trying to add it to other bills that keeps getting taken out, to the point now where Trump is out here actively saying, hey, the GOP is weak. The GOP is voting for all the things you don't want. They need to toughen up, and they need to vote for the SAVE Act.
Interesting times indeed that we live in. I think a part of this, I think there is a small sliver, Andrew, that know that the Real ID thing is a problem. And that may be part of the reason that they're holding out. The other issue here is we're having a battle about who's the boss. So Trump is doing what presidents will tend to do when they want to get something through. They will publicly bully and shame the Senate or Congress, trying to get them to move because they know constituents will put pressure on them. The difference with the Senate is it's the upper house and the terms are much longer. And you've got a guy like John Thune in place who is going to make a point to show President Trump who's actually boss, right? Because I think part of the logic, too, Andrew, is something that we've talked about on Culture Crossroads in the past, is that as we get to the midterms, I think more and more politicians and strategists are honestly starting to look beyond Trump, and they're starting to think about what the implications of their decisions now will be in the future after Trump is gone. And with Senator Thune being in charge, he's also thinking about his own bacon and things that he wants to do. And he's like, well, here's the practical thing. I need to show him who's boss, or we need to show him who's boss. We also need to be thinking strategically about the future and things that we may actually want. And then also we need to be thinking about what happens when President Trump is sunset and he's on his way out, because we will still be here because we serve 6-year terms. So I think it's actually a combination of things, Andrew, but more so than anything else, what it really feels like, in our understanding, is that there's just jockeying for position going on here, and somebody's going to show somebody who the boss is. And that's also going to have impact on the third of the Senate seats that are up for reelection, in particular in Texas, because as we see it now, the GOP money can't quite decide how they're going to coalesce behind AG Paxton in the race and when that's supposedly going to happen. So I think it's a combination of all of them.
So if I'm hearing you right, yeah, the Real ID mechanism might be a part of it, but really we're talking about a power struggle, or positioning for power after Trump is gone. What do you think, if you could look in your figurative crystal ball, in your political experience and insight, what does the GOP party look like after Trump? Because Trump, as a singular force and as a cult of personality, has been the Republican Party since he came on the scene. I don't do the Republicans even know who they are outside of Trump? And what do you think that would look like? Has the Republican Party completely changed forever now into the mold of Trump and his legacy? Or do you see the Republican Party morphing back into something that we saw, maybe early 2000s, something like that? or moving on from here, maybe following the legacy and doubling or tripling down. What do you think is the future of the Republicans after Trump? Because as the presidential election kicks off, which by the way is the day after the midterms, you're going to start to see not just the vision for America, but what the vision for the Republican Party really is, because it's going to be a post-Trump world. And the Republicans won't have Trump to run with. The Democrats won't have Trump to run against.
Andrew, it's such a tough one. We've talked about prior that President Trump has sucked all the air out of the room, and it's made it difficult for people to position themselves. Honestly, what we see on the research side is we think that this causes a fissure in the Republican Party, and you're going to end up with a couple of different camps, and you wonder who's going to coalesce behind who. Interesting, kind of like the Senate thing. We're going to show who's boss, so to speak. It is hard to tell, though, Andrew, outside of saying we think there's going to be a fissure here in how this goes. How it ultimately spins off and who runs it is still tough to tell, because, right now people are trying to jockey for position. I think Trump came out and said we need to vote for Vance, right? Vance needs to be the heir apparent. But there are also people who think Marco Rubio should be the heir apparent. I also do believe that there are some ones who we're not quite aware of yet that are going to make a go at this thing as well. But I don't know, Andrew, how we look as this thing starts to sunset. When you suck all the air out of the room and you don't really have energy focused on an heir apparent to continue, then you kind of leave it up to fate. Now, people who will watch this that know us or don't know us will say, come on, you're out of your mind. It's going to be the party of Trump and people are just going to step in and carry that. That's a tough act to follow, man. Look, I mean, whatever you think about JD Vance, I don't necessarily think that his temperament fits well. Rubio maybe a little bit better, but not so much. And honestly, both of them have ties to the system that aren't particularly good. Not just making that up. You can go look for yourself. I don't know, Andrew, beyond the thinking that there's going to be a fissure or a split in the party and how it operates.
Could this also be, kind of bringing this episode back full circle, could this also be maybe something that the Tucker Carlson group might be trying to position themselves to be, is kind of like the RFK Maha outsider, but maybe if they can get enough critical mass, they can then be in the Republican Party and take the Republican Party over. Could that be an angle that Tucker Carlson and his ilk might be aiming for?
Entirely possible. Here we are back now to kind of the Perot level split in the Republican Party. What did he do? He was a wedge candidate. He came in, talked practical solutions, had enough resources behind him to get it done. And guess what happened? He started polling, and that became a legitimate option. I still contend to this day, if Perot would have stayed in the race, even with his quirks, he probably would have been able to win in 1992, because people were just at that point where they wanted some common sense solutions from someone who sounded like they had common sense and could actually get the job done.
Yeah, and Clinton only won because of the plurality. I think he was still under 50%. So yeah, if Perot had lasted a little longer, he probably could have finished off George H.W. Bush and likely would have matched up well against Bill Clinton. Even though, again, when we look back at this context right now, and we look back at the Clinton presidency, we say, those were the good old days. Because he was legitimately the last president to shrink.
Boy, that's sad.
Isn't that weird? Bill Clinton was the last president to shrink government. Bill Clinton was the last president to have a balanced budget. I mean, it just, I don't know. It is Bizarro world. Jeez. There is Bizarro Jerry and Bizarro Kramer and Bizarro Elaine and Bizarro George running around, and that's what we're seeing. Superman is a bad guy now. Richard Pryor is doing something, and it's a crazy world. All right, we are over budget and out of time. So RC, again, land the plane here. Tell us about all the spots and stuff.
Yeah, so you guys see scrolling along the bottom of the screen, you can catch up with us on YouTube, Culture Crossroads 316, and also at Watchman Action. Now, for all things Watchman Action, start at watchmanaction.org. You can watch episodes of the show there. All of our social media handles are Watchman Action. We are also on the Beck Cable Network in North Dakota. The Watchman Action Network is on channel 40, and you can catch the Spin Cycle weeknights at 9:30 Eastern. You'll get today's show in case you missed any part of it. You can watch it tonight on the Watchman Action Network, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time each and every weeknight, along with other episodes of The Spin Cycle, The Culture Crossroads, The Watchman Brief, all of our special reports and interviews. Everything is there. Just go to watchmanaction.org. That's your jumping off point for everything else.
And for R.C. Williams, I'm Andrew Southwick. Thank you for hanging out with us for a few minutes or for the whole time. This has been The Spin Cycle. We will see you next time.